Hey, everybody, this is Joe Joseph, and this is the DailySheeple.com's Daily News Brief. Boy, oh boy. You know, we talk all the time about how the powers that shouldn't be, how our government has really taken it to the next level as far as removing rights and really limiting your ability to live your life the way that you want to. And they've gone about using tactics to, in the name of good, to then go and steal your rights in other areas. I'm going to show you an example. And this is a clear example of entrapment. Whether or not it's for a noble pursuit, it doesn't matter. The fact is that entrapment is entrapment, just like a speeding ticket is entrapment. You know, when they sit on the side of the road and the police wait for you and they hit you with the radar and they're hiding behind a bush or something like that, that's entrapment. It's what it is. The DailyMail.com ran a piece, which you don't really think about this on a daily basis, but we've heard this before, whether it be because the government is trying to catch the terrorists, right? So they go ahead and they give inert bombs to some people. That's after they talk to them on online forums, and then they talk them into it, and then they say, "Oh, come on. Well, I don't really know. I don't know if I should do this or not. Well, come on. I'll even give you the stuff to do it." So they give them inert stuff to do it. In the case of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, they actually gave them live stuff. I mean, this is what we're talking about here, And DailyMail.com, FBI ran 23 child pornography sites in a bid to lure and catch online predators. Stunning unsealed documents revealed. Think about that for a second. The FBI ran 23 child porn sites. First of all, who in the FBI is deciding what child porn goes up there, and where did they get it, and whose permission did they get to do this? I mean, now, personally, me, if I was in the FBI, I would certainly have a crisis of conscience. I mean, how could I go ahead and do that? It's crazy. This is unbelievable. It says the FBI reportedly operated almost 24 child pornography websites hidden on the dark web to lure and catch predators. Unsealed documents obtained by the American Civil Liberties Union reveal investigators had the authorization to run 23 such websites. It has already been known that the agency ran the website Playpen to help identify users. The sites were, quote, dedicated to the advertisement of child pornography, the discussion of matters pertinent to child sexual abuse. This according to Ars Technica. The agency sites also monitored methods and tactics offenders used to abuse children, as well as the methods and tactics offenders used to avoid law enforcement detection while perpetrating online child sexual exploitation cases. Now, the FBI hoped to distribute malware to use on the sites so that they could be identified. But the new document also reveals the trap sites were ran out of a government facility, and they were able to learn the identities and the IP addresses of the users. So cybercrime expert Fred Jennings told Ars Technica there's no way or no other way to read these documents than websites 1 to 23 were hosted at a government facility with FBI knowledge and to the FBI's informational benefit. Meaning it's a clever phrasing on their part. It's really what it is. And an FBI spokesman said he was unaware of an operation with 23 websites. Isn't that interesting? They're denying it. So when the FBI goes and does something like this, isn't it a crime? They're running child pornography websites on their own servers. Like I said, what they do is it'll start here, right? It'll start here. Well, we're doing this to catch child pornographers, right? We're doing this to catch terrorists. And then what happens? Then the monitoring spreads. And it doesn't stop with child porn. It doesn't stop with terrorism. Then it becomes, independent media. What are you doing? Anybody that might say something on social media that may not be politically correct. I mean, this is what they do. Newt Gingrich by the way, according to Activist Post. He wants a new House committee on un-American activities. Think about that for a second. Kurt Nimmo wrote a great piece on this. He says Trump's probable Secretary of State wants to form a committee to rival the infamous House Committee on Un-American Activities. Quote, "We originally created the House Un-American Activities Committee to go after Nazis. That's what Newt Gingrich said this week. He continued, he said, "We passed several laws in 1938 and 1939 to go after the Nazis, and we made it illegal to help the Nazis. So we're going to presently have to take a similar step here in regards to Muslims." Whoa. Trump said during his campaign he wants to ban Muslims from unspecified countries from entering the United States. There's no evidence, by the way, that the Islamic State is coordinating attacks in the United States. San Bernardino and Miami were the work of deranged individuals espousing Saudi Wahhabi ideology, and Islamic State terrorists are not flooding over the border. There's no evidence of sleeper cells. So sending Wahhabi terrorists from Saudi Arabia to America is a CIA specialty. Michael Springman, chief of the non-immigration and visa section in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia from 1987 to 1989, said the CIA handed out visas like hotcakes to radical Salafists. And the CIA gave Mohammed Jamal Khalifa, bin Laden's brother-in-law, a visa in the 1990s. Think about that. And we've got plenty of WikiLeaks to show the ties of the Saudi government and the Saudi kingdom to the Clintons. So, like, what's really going on here? And, you know, if they're going to do this, I have a suggestion, Mr. Gingrich. I say that before you have something like this, you need to define what un-American is. Define it. Define to me what an un-American activity would be. Because, according to our Constitution, I can't see many un-American activities out there. Just saying. As long as people's rights are respected, we have mutual respect, we have personal responsibility. I don't know what an un-American activity might be. So I would love to hear one of these jabroni heads out there try to define what an un-American activity is and then try to enforce it. That's what I'm going to, that's as far as I'll go with that. Because if you go by the framework with which this country was founded on, there really aren't many un-American activities. I mean, I suppose like fascism, that's an un-American activity if you're a fascist. Yeah. If you deprive people of their rights. Yeah. Wow, that sounds a lot like our government. Maybe, just maybe, we should have a investigation, perhaps an independent one, into un-American activities on behalf of our government, that our government's done to us. That's what I think. I think we need to turn the mirror around and have it face the people who are supposedly holier than us, that know so much more than us. Because I can tell you, there's more un-American activities going on in Washington, D.C. than there is outside of it. That much is for sure. Now, SHTFplan.com also confirmed that there are mass deportations coming and they're imminent. This, it's unbelievable. 2 to 3 million undocumented immigrants with criminal records are going to be gone, according to Trump. He says if you're an illegal immigrant in America with a criminal record, your days are numbered. Following up on his campaign promise to build a security wall on the southern border and deport any undocumented immigrants with a criminal record, Trump sat down with 60 Minutes, and this is what he said. He said, what we're going to do is get the people that are criminal and have criminal records, gang members, drug dealers, where a lot of these people probably, he says, 2 million. It could be even 3 million. He says, we're going to get them out of the country or we're going to incarcerate. But we're going to get them out of the country. They're here illegally. I say, good for him. If you're actually going to enforce immigration law, wow, what a change of pace. What a change of scenery. You see, as commander-in-chief Trump will have the power to enforce these existing immigration laws, which, among other things, call for the deportation of individuals entering the country illegally. Because under the Obama administration, millions of immigrants were allowed to enter the country without recourse. And Border Patrol agents from Texas to California were told to stand down and do nothing. So Trump and others have said that undocumented workers pose a direct threat to the national security of the United States because with current immigration policies, which require no documentation whatsoever, it's impossible to know who's entering the country and from which country they originate. And it's been reported that numerous individuals with ties to possible terrorism have been apprehended at the border. That's what they say. I don't know. And that potentially scores, there's a lot of people, scores of others that have been smuggled into the United States by Mexican drug cartels. You know, it's not just Mexicans, too. You got to remember that a lot of illegals also come from South America as well and other Central American countries. So what's going to happen? Well, you'd hope that he follows through with some of the things that he says he's going to do. I can't see there being something wrong with approaching immigration from a rule of law standpoint. But what really needs to happen at the end of the day is that the rule of law has to be kept across the board and have it affect the top all the way down to the bottom. And as long as we do that, that's fine. But if it's going to be pick and choose, if it's going to be the law applies to you but not to you, well, then I've got a problem. And there are ways to get in the United States. There are legal means to do so, and people should follow them. And the only way that they're going to follow them, I think, is if you put some sort of mode or method in place to be able to control the flow. And that's going to be a significant task here in the next 4 years for President Trump. So we'll see how he does with that. Now, on foreign policy, he's already starting to ruffle feathers, which is kind of his style. The Telegraph is saying that a Trump-Putin alliance is sparking a diplomatic crisis as British ministers demand assurances from U.S. Over Russia. Isn't this interesting? Steve Swinford writes about this. He says, Britain is facing a diplomatic crisis with the U.S. over Donald Trump's plan to forge an alliance with Vladimir Putin and bolster the Syrian regime. In a significant foreign policy split, officials admitted that Britain will have some very difficult conversations with the president-elect in the coming months over his approach to Russia. It comes after Mr. Trump used his first interview since winning the U.S. election to indicate that he will withdraw support for rebels in Syria and thank Vladimir Putin for sending him a beautiful letter. Mr. Trump said that he will instead join forces with Russia and focus on defeating ISIL. He had previously said that it would be nice if the U.S. and Russia could work together to knock the hell out of ISIL. His views are in stark contrast with those of Theresa May, who have accused President Assad's regime of perpetrating atrocious violence and said that the long-term future of Syria must be without Assad. Let me stop there. When you take a look at what has happened in Syria, and again, I'm not going to say Assad is a saint, but Assad is one of those people that pushed against the formation of a central bank or any sort of Western control, much like Gaddafi in Libya and Saddam Hussein in Iraq. All of these people were deposed because they pushed against the Western power. And Assad is doing the same thing. And rightfully so. Syria is a sovereign nation. Before all of this happened, you had all of the religions, basically, of the world in Syria living in harmony. You had ancient Christian villages that were still speaking Aramaic in Syria. You know, they weren't being demonized or being discriminated against. They were living in harmony with each other. And then the big bad United States and their cronies have to come in and shake things up because Assad didn't want to play ball. And so then they go on a demonization campaign against Assad and they attack. And so the powers that shouldn't be, of course, the British Crown, who is up at the top of the hierarchy of the powers that shouldn't be, is pushing back. What? The United States is going to do our bidding? What? I mean, if Mr. Trump is going to go down that road, then bravo. You know, if you take a non-interventionist standpoint, okay, we're going to knock the crap out of ISIL and we're going to come home. We're going to clean up the Clinton mess that got started, the Obama mess, and then we're going to go home. Hey, have a nice day, Mr. Assad. Sorry for the inconvenience of the last 8 years or 12 years or however long we've been over in Syria. Nigel Farage even met with members of Donald Trump's inner circle at Trump Tower in New York after saying Theresa May must mend fences with the president-elect. It's true. You know, it's funny because Trump is like the uncouth, badly behaved new neighbor who just moved into the neighborhood of well-heeled old money. Yes, if you will. Yeah, this new rabble-rouser Trump is coming around and he's doing all this crazy stuff. What are we going to do? This new money. Ugh. Marie Le Pen over in France of the Front National praised President Putin for defeating and defending the interest of his own country. And she criticized U.S. and European aggression towards Russia. I mean, now all of a sudden, I'm telling you, this populist movement that's underway is really interesting because, I mean, the powers that shouldn't be and the old money are really pushing back. But to what avail? That's the question. You know, what are they actually gaining by doing this? In his first interview, Mr. Trump told the Wall Street Journal that his administration will prioritize defeating ISIL in Syria rather than removing President Assad. He told the Wall Street Journal, I have an opposite view of many people regarding Syria. Yes, because she's new money. Yes. He says, my attitude was you're fighting Syria. Syria is fighting ISIS, and you have to get rid of ISIS. He says, Russia's now totally aligned with Syria, and now you have Iran, which is becoming powerful because of us, who's also aligned with Syria. And now we're backing rebels against Syria, and we have no idea who these people are. So he asked that if the U.S. attacks President Assad's regime, why wouldn't we end up fighting Russia? Of course we would. And why would we want to fight Russia? We don't want to fight Russia, and Russia doesn't want to fight us. Like I said, it would be very hard for any human being to push the red button and cause mutually assured destruction. It's just not going to happen. People are going to, they'll find other ways to screw things up. That's the bad way to screw things up, and they all know it. No one wants to live underground. You know, they're all building their shelters and everything else, but I tell you, the only way that I think that's for is like Nibiru or something like that's going to come and just totally devastate things, and it's totally out of our control. Something like that. That's what they're preparing for. They're not preparing for all-out nuclear war. I just don't see it. Because, again, you'd really want to live underground for a very long time for that to happen. And I think all of them just enjoy the sunshine too much. I'm just saying. Now, Ron Paul even warned of a shadow government. He says, beware of the shadow government, as he was talking about President Trump. And this is interesting. He says, you know, we look at a president and we look at what he said. And we look at what he might even do. And we look at his advisors. But quite frankly, there's an outside source, which we refer to as a deep state or a shadow government. And there's a lot of influence by people that are actually more powerful than our government itself. Our president and on up. He says, I mean, you take, for instance, how our government gets involved in elections around the world, whether it's in the Middle East or the Ukraine. And he's right. You know, you take a look at like a person like George Soros, who's going on now and starting these riots all over the place. With George Soros, he has a lot of power there more power than a government does. Why? Because a government's buried in bureaucracy. It's not that they don't want to do what Soros is doing. Oh, no. It's that there's a bunch of red tape to get through. See, where Soros doesn't have all that red tape. He just says, okay, moveon.org. Here's $100 million. Go do it. Have fun. Love you long time. And that's what they do because there's no red tape with the ultra rich. They got the money. They make it happen. There's no rules. And for them, if they get caught, they just pay the people off or they blackmail. It's really simple. Governments, while wanting to oppress you and advance agendas, find it harder and harder to do so as they get bigger and bigger and more bloated. They get more efficient and more bureaucratic, and they can't get anything done. So you want to know where the real problems are? Look at the uber rich, because they're the ones that are pushing this. It's the powers that shouldn't be. The shadow government, as Ron Paul says. I'm Joe Joseph. This was your Daily News Brief, brought to you by thedailysheeple.com. I'll have you one again tomorrow, and I will see you all real soon. Have a great day, everybody.